What's happening, dogs? Mr. Allen here, and it's time to bust out the greatest theorem of all time, the Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm solving for my hypotenuse, which means I'm going to use my two legs as 4 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared. Now, 4 squared is 16, 8 squared is 64, and x squared will just remain x squared. If I add those two together, I get 80 equals x squared. Now, how am I going to solve this thing? I'm going to use square roots. Square root on both sides, but now what I need to do is I need to break down that square root of 80. I need to simplify this radical. I'm going to do so by dividing by 2, I get 40, 2, I get 20, 2, I get 10, and then 2 and 5. I'm going to circle my pairs. We got 2, 2 times 2 is 4, square root, 5's left over. That's it, we done. I'm solving for one of the legs. I have my hypotenuse and another leg. So it's going to be x squared plus 10 squared equals 12 squared. Now, I got x squared plus 100 equals 144. What am I going to do to solve for x? I got to subtract that 100 from both sides, leaving me with x squared equals 44. How do I get x by itself? Got to get rid of that squared. So I'm going to square root on both sides. Now what I need to do is I'm going to get the square root of 44. I got to break that thing down with a factor tree. I can circle my pair of 2's. And now I've got 2 square root 11 for my final answer, and that's it. So I've got my hypotenuse. I have a leg. I want one of my legs. I got to set it up like this. My hypotenuse is always my c squared, which is on the right-hand side of that equals. And I also have to have this guy in parentheses squared because I'm going to need to square both the 2 and the root 5. 4 times 5 is going to be 20. Now I need to get this x squared all by itself. Last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to square root on both sides. Now I'm going to try and break down that square root of 61. But I can't. So my final answer is just going to be square root of 61. No factor tree here, and that's what I'm talking about. All right, we got x squared plus 5 squared equals my hypotenuse squared, which is 5 root 3, all squared. So I'm going to get 25, and then I've got to square the 5 and square the root 3, so we get 25 times 3 is 75. Now I can subtract that 25 on both sides. Last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to square root. But I got to break down that square root of 50 if possible, and I can. 2 and 25, and then I got 5 and 5. Circle my pairs, the pairs come out, and I got the root 2 left in. That's my final answer for x. That's what I'm talking about.